Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. If you've ever felt totally frustrated because your AI tools write like a hyper-caffeinated marketing intern, or they just keep getting you generic, plain incorrect outputs, well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're going to level up your skills to fix those generic outputs once and for all. We're transforming you from a casual user into an advanced prompt crafter. Because honestly, the difference between a barely usable AI result and a genuinely brilliant one, it entirely depends on the techniques we're about to cover. Okay, let's just shatter the illusion right out of the gate. The AI is not some magic oracle that just inherently knows how to think. Instead, we really need to look under the hood and see it for what it truly is, a mechanical compute engine. The absolute core truth is this: the model is a pattern completer. It doesn't natively reason the way you and I do. It simply looks for patterns and continues them. And once you really grasp that, you realize the best way to get what you want isn't to just demand an answer, but to establish a bulletproof pattern for the AI to follow. So here's our game plan for today. We're tackling this in a 5-stage video game style progression. We'll hit the core truth, the power of examples, thinking step by step, prompting versus reasoning models, and finally, we'll face the boss level with the ultimate combo. Starting with level 1, the core truth. To make this work, we have to fundamentally redefine how we communicate with our AI tools. Which brings us straight into level 2, the power of examples. Think about it like this. A written instruction carries maybe one tiny bit of useful information, but a concrete example, that carries dozens. If you just ask for a punchy tone in your instructions, you almost always get that bland, over-the-top LinkedIn voice we all desperately want to avoid. Right now, most people are stuck sending what's called zero-shot prompts, meaning zero examples, just instructions. But transitioning to few-shot prompting, where you provide a couple of examples, usually 2 to 5, to establish a rock-solid pattern, is how you actually start to steer the output reliably. Sure, there's one-shot prompting too, but few-shot is where the real magic happens for complex tasks. Just look at this stark before and after contrast. In a typical zero-shot scenario, you ask the AI to classify customer feedback as positive, negative, or mixed, and provide a justification. And honestly, the AI will probably wobble on the formatting. But in a few-shot scenario, you actually give it examples of a positive review, a negative review, and a mixed review before asking for the final answer. Showing the AI a mixed example alongside the positive and negative ones locks in the formatting super tightly, and it shows the model exactly how to reason through ambiguity. Now, a quick warning. You can't just throw any random examples in there. You've got to craft them carefully. A good example is representative, meaning it looks like the real cases you'll be dealing with. It must be diverse, because if you only show positive examples, you're going to subtly bias the model to only give positive answers. It also needs to be honest, showing the rough edges if your real data has them. And, absolutely crucial, it must be cleanly formatted. Format leakage is a massive danger. Since the AI acts mechanically, it's going to faithfully reproduce any slappy punctuation, stray asterisks, or weird biases you accidentally leave in your examples. That being said, you don't need this tool for every single job. Feel free to skip few-shot prompting for simple factual queries, casual chatting, or basic rewrites. Save your tokens and your time on those. But you should absolutely deploy it when you need to strictly control tone, structure, classification, or extraction. Basically, use it whenever showing what good looks like is a lot easier than trying to describe it. All right, let's advance to level 3, thinking step by step. You see this phrase, let's think step by step? That is not just a polite suggestion. Back in 2022, researchers discovered a shocking, massive jump in accuracy benchmarks for math and logic problems just by adding those exact words. It's known as chain of thought prompting. See, when you ask the model to lay out its reasoning before giving the answer, it generates more tokens. And since each token is a forward passive computation through the network, you are literally giving the model more processing time to think. Let's make this concrete with a practical problem, like figuring out a bookstore sale. Say you're buying a couple of hardcovers at a discount, some paperbacks at a discount, and then adding a 7% sales tax. A regular zero-shot prompt that just demands the final total will usually completely fail this problem. Why? Because the arithmetic isn't clean across all those hidden internal calculations. The AI tries to jump straight to the finish line and just trips over its own feet. But watch how everything changes when we use chain of thought prompting. By simply instructing the AI to solve it step by step and show its reasoning, we force it to lay out its entire thought process. Step 1, it figures out the hardcover discount. Step 2, the paperback discount. Step 3, the subtotal. Step 4, adding the tax. By doing this, it uses more compute time, sure, but it constrains itself with its own earlier correct tokens. This produces a debuggable reasoning path leading straight to the correct $69.76 answer. Plus, if it does make a mistake somewhere, you can clearly see exactly which step derailed. Just like our previous technique, chain of thought has a specific time and place. It absolutely shines on multi-step planning, math word problems, logic puzzles, and complex code analysis. But keep in mind, analytical reasoning is literally the worst mode for writing a heartfelt poem or shifting the tone of an email. So only pull out chain of thought when the answer actually requires multiple steps of inference to get to the truth. For creative writing or quick trivia, it's just going to make the response super slow and clunky.
Okay, moving on to level 4, prompting versus reasoning models.
Now, this is an absolutely crucial distinction we need to make. Chain of thought prompting is a trick you manually apply to a regular model to force it to behave better. But reasoning models like DeepSeek R1, OpenAI's O-Series, or Gemini's reasoning variants are completely different beasts. These models are inherently designed to take their time, backtrack, double-check themselves, and think out loud in a long internal chain of thought by default on every single problem. You don't even have to ask them to do it.
So here's a handy rule of thumb for deciding exactly which compute engine to fire up based on the complexity of your task. For quick recall or simple rewrites, stick to a regular model. If the task needs some light reasoning or multi-step analysis, use a regular model and manually add a chain of thought prompt. But if you're tackling incredibly hard math, dense logic puzzles, or complex code generation, that is when you pull out the big guns and switch entirely to a dedicated reasoning model. And finally, we've arrived. Boss level, the ultimate combo. This is where we stack all our new skills together to handle the absolute hardest problems you can possibly throw at an AI. A standard few-shot prompt just gives the question and the final answer, like asking for train speed and just typing 30 miles an hour. But when we upgrade to few-shot chain of thought, we combine our techniques. You teach the model not just what the final formatting should look like, but the exact internal logic it needs to get there. You're actually including the step-by-step reasoning inside your examples. Yes, it's expensive on tokens, but it is without a doubt the most powerful technique for guaranteeing high accuracy. And what about those massive, high-stakes tasks where you absolutely cannot afford a single mistake? That's where you use a power-up called self-consistency. AI is non-deterministic. It likes to take slightly different paths each time. By running the exact same chain of thought prompt 3 or maybe 5 times, you generate independent reasoning traces. Then you simply select the answer that pops up most often. It's brilliant. You're exploiting the AI's non-deterministic nature to guarantee reliability when you can't easily verify the math yourself.
So if you take away nothing else from this explainer, remember this single mental model because it is the absolute heart of advanced prompting. Show, don't just tell. That's few-shot prompting. Think aloud. Don't just answer. That's chain of thought prompting. Pretty much every advanced trick out there is just a refinement of these two core ideas.
But here is a quick reality check for us all. Knowing about these techniques is completely useless unless you actually put them into action. Most folks read about this stuff, nod their heads, and then immediately slide right back into lazy zero-shot prompting forever. The gap between knowing this and actually doing it reflexively requires deliberate practice. So, as we wrap up, I've got to ask you, for the next 2 weeks, are you going to commit to practicing these examples until they become automatic? Which path are you choosing for your very next prompt?